Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's Transformational Tuesday. And today we're talking about relationships. All right. Interactions with others. Listen, your nervous system is still protecting our wounds. All right. It's still protecting our wounds. So let's update your guest list on today. Listen, your nervous system really doesn't know, all right, that old chapters of your life is over. All right. So when we start talking about interactions, the nervous system really doesn't know that these old chapters are over. So it braces for the critic. It's bracing in a sense like expecting, things to not go right, right? Still making space for the one the people in your life that need you to shrink, right? Still making space for or keeping the door open um, for relationships that can be emotionally exhausting. Here is what healing looks like really teaching this nervous system who's safe now. Okay. And who's safe now? You are safe. Okay. You are safe. And I think today's conversation is going to be pretty interesting because I do feel like our cutoff game is real, you know and we will throw this word toxic around a lot, and we will judge people or have a very um critical eye of individuals, not realizing that that is a part of you that is protecting you, right? And so these judgments get louder, they get more cruel, they end up creating a lot more conflict, right? Than we care to really go through. And it's really just this, it's your body's doing what it was created to do or what it was taught to do, right? So it's your nervous system really doing what it was taught to do. And here's the gift on this one: you get to change it, right? You get to change it. So we're talking about rewrite your script today. Listen, you are not obligated. We talked about yesterday, you're not obligated to live a story that they handed you. And today, we're talking about teaching your nervous system who is safe. Like, who is safe, all right? Because your nervous system is still protecting old wounds. So, in today, Project Life, this time is personal, right? We're talking about boundaries, this new cast, right? And these boundaries as nervous system updates. Now, again, when I talk about boundaries, and again, I'm going to give this definition of what a boundary is like your responsibility. All right. So if you say, I'm going to put a boundary where I don't answer my phone at 7 o'clock, and you tell a friend or a family member, like, I don't answer my phone, after 7 or whatever, or I prefer you not to call, right? And I think that when we set a boundary, that's kind of what we're saying. Like, I prefer you not to call me after 7. So say that family member calls after 7, right? And you're mad at this individual, family member, friend, you're mad at this individual and you feel like they disrespected my boundaries, right? It's really not for them especially in the beginning, to hold on to a boundary that you're not holding on to. Because if you said you wasn't answering the phone at 7, then why you answer the phone at 7:45 or 8:45, right? With an attitude. So the conversation should have been the next day, right? When they say, "Hey, I called you at 8:30, I called you at 7, I called you last night," and then you just reinforce the boundary. Oh, I told you I don't take calls after 7. I don't do that. Like, I'm at home, I'm with my family, right? That's you reestablishing a boundary. But when you answer the phone after 7, right, you are actually the one who's breaking your boundary, not them. All right. But those are the challenging conversations that keep us with old cast, right? That keep us in these relationships that really don't align with who we are today. Okay. So again, we're talking about boundaries as a nervous system update, really not cutting off people, but consciously choosing proximity based capacity, right? So constantly choosing, consciously choosing relationships that align um with who we are today. All right. I talk about friendships, and a lot of our friendships that we establish those friendships in the beginning from proximity, right? They were our neighbors, right? They were our schoolmates, right? They were our cousins' friends. So we know when we went over our cousin's house, we was going to see this person. They were our They were in our classroom, right? So proximity brought about a level of of environment where you didn't really have to work. You've heard me say this before. Even if you got into it, like you needed to go on and make up because you was gonna see this person again at school or whatever, right? So either you was gonna really, really be power with a person, or you were gonna, you know, get into it and make friends. What and in that way, the nervous system starts to say, okay, this is how relationships is built because that's how you taught me proximity. But now we get older and we're in families. We don't live in the same neighborhoods. We don't work the same jobs and things like that. And now it takes effort, right, to really build these relationships. But instead of putting in the effort, right, to build these relationships, we focus back on proximity. So we tend to lean on the people that we're closer to. We tend to lean on the people that we know a little better, right? And it's interesting because I think that the question that you have to ask yourself is that is that what I need right now, right? And what type of relationships do I need? Because some people deserve, the front row in your life, and some people, to be honest, they probably need to be in the back, right? Or in the balcony. And that's not to say to in a way judge them, but it's all about proximity. Like, where does this person really need to be in your life? And everybody doesn't need to have a front row seat, okay? And some don't even, honestly, don't need to be in a building. And again, just based on what your nervous system has been taught. All right. So today's theme is all about the nervous system. I'm talking all about the nervous system in relations to boundaries. All right. So um so I want to say this. This is our powerful quote for today. If your nervous system could speak, which relationship would it say? What relationships would it say are costing you the most energy to maintain? All right. So if your nervous system or your inner child or just that aspect of you, if it could speak, what would it say? Which relationships would it say is costing you the most energy to keep? If you were to be honest with yourself, you don't have to put it in the chat, but I do want you to realize, like, okay, this, and when we start talking about opportunity cost, which is not what this conversation is, but a lot of us stay in relationships because we don't want to pay the opportunity cost, right? We would rather stay in relationships that's costing us a lot of energy and a lot of emotion because they're familiar, right? And they're safe. And to go create another relationship will cost a lot of energy up front, but the result of that investment, right, would yield, in a sense, like more alignment, more congruency, right? So more information about like where you're at right now in your life, what you need right now. And yes, that's going to take some energy up front, right? All of the nerves and all of the stuff. And I talk about really learning you, because a big part of your healing journey is people reflecting back to you. So when you go out to make these new relationships, you're going to know exactly where you need to heal, because when you go sit, just say you go meet a new person, or you step out there, right? They're kind of mirroring back to you all of your thoughts about you, right? And those thoughts are being reflected on them. So like, did I sound right? Did I do this? Does this person like me, right? All of that stuff starts to reel, and that stuff don't happen with old friendships. That stuff don't happen when you're comfortable, right? So when you go on this healing journey, bringing new people into your life really is a good mirror for you, because it actually gives you information. It gives you data. All right. So listen, your nervous system is still protecting you from a movie that ended, guess what, seasons ago, years and years and years ago. All right. If you're still tensing up when people name appear, good morning, Miss Diane. If you're still tensing up when people name appear, you're still shrinking before you even enter a room, you're still performing for the version of you that everyone else is comfortable with. Listen, that's not weakness. That's not you selling out. That's your nervous system being faithful. It's being a faithful guardian, right? protecting you the only way it knows how. And I think it's just important for us to know that. I know that this may be a different way to look at it because we've developed stories, right? So we know that that person is the reason why I feel the way I feel. We know that there's core beliefs that we have that really is guiding our beliefs and guiding our behaviors. And what I need you to know is that there is a mechanism or a machine, right, that's working on for your good, right? So when I talk about life, there's those four categories. There's the love of self, your interactions with other, your focus, and your energy. So we have like this field of energy like around us that is orchestrated literally by the nervous system, right? And so I talked about it on yesterday, like it allows you to see. So when I gave the example of the lights, right, it's allowing you to see the red flags in people or the green flags in people. It's allowing you to see the blue area. It's allowing you to see the white area, right? And what we want to be able to do is see the whole Christmas tree, like the whole thing lighting up. But because the nervous system has been trained, it's looking for, right, the conflict. So it can justify why we shouldn't connect. Because me connecting with new people would change something about me, and the nervous system don't want you to change, right? It just doesn't want you to change, all right? So again, this is not weakness. This is your nervous system being a faithful guardian. The problem here, though, is using old software for a new season. It really is keeping you stuck. All right. Your body doesn't know that you're safe now, you guys. It doesn't know your desires. It doesn't know like you're an adult and you can protect yourself. It doesn't know that. Okay. It doesn't know that you have grown past those chapters in your life. It doesn't know that, mama really don't have the control that mama used to have. Daddy really don't have the authority he used to have. That's the old you, right? But it hasn't caught up. So it doesn't really give, or so you don't really get the chance to really choose differently. All right, because the nervous system has already made the decision for you, and you start to kind of feel it, right? You feel it in your body. So today, this life lesson is something new. All right, not everyone who knew you, all right, gets automatic access to who you're becoming now. All right. And honestly, sometimes that happens organically. The biggest time that happens organically, right? But we don't allow it to happen organically because what does our system do? It just a cut a person off. And I always say you can cut it off. You can cut, they say cut the monster off, another head gonna grow, right? If we don't deal with it at the root of what's going on, right? You can cut people out your life, and just another person is going to come with that same energy and that same behavior because you haven't uprooted, and I don't say uprooted, but you haven't changed the relationship that you have on the inside. So you can break up with the boyfriend, you can break up with the girlfriend, you can leave a job up with that boss, but you're going to end up finding a job that got the same type of boss, right? Or you're going to end up dating a person or marrying a person that got the same type of behaviors if you didn't go in and update this app, right? This nervous system app to let it know that you safe and what you really need. And if I say anything, this is why you go to therapy, right? This is why you get a coach, right? Because that outside person is not attached to you in proximity, right? So me as your therapist has a different view and I'm objective. I don't have confirmation bias with you, right? So I'm seeing you kind of like as you are, right? And I'm feeling for misalignment. I'm feeling for the energy that you're giving me. And then I'm giving you feedback back, right? And that feedback is allowing you to update your values, establishing your boundaries. Like, what is it that you want today? And then you practice that over and over and over again. So now the conversations or even the conflicts that you used to get in with your mom, you don't even get into them no more. She's still baiting you, but you respond differently. The things that your husband now would have done and you would go off before, you learn to walk out the room and you start to change the dynamic in this relationships. Why? Because you start to change. You don't have to defend anymore. You don't have to protect anymore. You don't have to do these things that you feel that your nervous system feels today you need to do to keep you safe. And the reason why you don't need to do those things, because you've updated your language, you understand who you are as an individual, you have started to work on yourself, loving yourself. So now you can interact with this person differently, and you can let them be messy. You can let them be judgmental. You can let them be controlling, and you don't have to get reeled into it because you're learning who you are now. And you don't have to get into a conflict with the person about what they want or what they desire from you. All right. So, why am I doing this session today? Because I spent years letting my nervous system hijack my relationships that were no longer aligned. All right. And I know what it's like when your body braces before your mind can even process why, right? Like as you're walking in, I'm bracing myself because I know what's going to happen. And if you are that type of person, you like, I'm going to have this conversation with this person and I already know they're going to say this. And so you literally had the whole conversation in your head, right, before you even get to the person, not even realizing that you're setting the intention and the tone, right? And that's just your nervous system using what it knows, right? It's saying, hey, we're so used to arguing with people, we're going to create this argument in our head. And that's what we're going to listen for. And that person could have not said anything like that, but in a way you hear it like that. And that's why when we do our body scans, I say, let's soften our ears so we can actually hear, right, what the person is saying and not filter what the person is saying through our own belief system, through our own understanding. I'm gonna give you an example of how we filter things. Um, you know, um, when my grandma got sick, right? As soon as they said like, that she could have cancer, I didn't hear she could have cancer. What I filtered was my grandmother is about to die, right? So that was, and it wasn't true. But from the time they said that, that is what my interpretation was. So I became all the way emotional. I got tears in my eyes. I don't even know what the cancer is. I don't even know if the cancer is real, or where it's at in her body, or if it's something that she can get treatment for. Because as soon as I heard that, as soon as they said that to me, my interpretation was my grandma about to die. And my response emotionally was about my grandmother dying. It had nothing to do with, in this case, like, oh, she has cancer. So let me figure that out. Like I had to literally say, Sheila, we don't even know if she has, cancer, what type of cancer it is. Like, step back. That this is not a death. This is not a death letter, right? Right. But that's to just kind of give a very extreme way of how somebody says something, and we can interpret it very different. Because when my aunt told me that, she didn't call me and say, "Hey, just so you know, Grandma about to die." She called and said, "Hey, just to update, they think they saw, cancer, in Mama's, on Mama's breast." And my response was just so emotional. So I want you to see how we can hear different. And guess what? We do that in relationships. Somebody can say, "So are you gonna wash the dishes?" Right? And then you hear, "So what you think? I'm your maid," right? So it's just how we interpret stuff, and we need to, and that's just your nervous system doing what it was created to do. But we need to update that. All right, we need to update that. So again, my why is because I spent years letting my nervous system really hijack my relationships, and that were no longer aligned, right? That were no longer hijack relationships that needed to these new relationships that were in alignment with me, right? And I know what it felt like in my body, right, to brace the conversation that was happening in my mind. So if I'm pulling up, I'm having this conversation about what's going to happen and how it's going to happen. So I had to learn that your nervous system actually needs permission to really update yourself and really protect you, right? And really protect and stop protecting you and get in different relationship with you. All right. So here's my disclaimer for today. This isn't about blame. Okay, or villainating anyone, right? This is really about understanding how the body works, right? This wisdom of this mechanism that has been trained to, like, in a sense, work against you, and how now do I use this mechanism to work for me? All right. Some some relationships, they do dysregulate you, right? Not because anyone is bad, but because the dynamic is misaligned with the person that you're becoming, right? But in some way, you still feel pulled and drawn to that person. Listen, I'm not trying to make anybody wrong in your life, right? What I'm trying to do is get you to understand and make yourself safe. So I want to say that again. This is not about making anybody wrong, right? This is about making yourself safe. All right. And when there is and what was coming up in my spirit as I was saying that, and we can say stuff like, I don't know. I think we get very woo woo. And I'm not saying that woo woo stuff don't exist, right? Like witchcraft and things like that. I'm not saying that that stuff don't exist, but I'm saying it's a puzzle, right? Life is like pieces to this puzzle, and our body is so phenomenal, right? The way it's wired, that if we don't know, even the Bible says this: "My people perish from their lack of knowledge," and we just don't know, right? You don't know that you have a system that is working for you unconsciously that you are not aware of. Like I told you, 75 to 95% of your actions right now is unconscious. Like the way you scroll on your phone, picking up an app, drinking water, the way you cook, walking to your bed, like you're not consciously thinking of that. Okay. Only about 25 to 5%. And I'm gonna say 5% for the bell curve for the average person. The average person is living 5% consciously, right? Everything else is programmed. And so when I'm talking about the nervous system, I'm talking about that's your program. And if you're programmed to be in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, or you're programmed to be emotionally disconnect, but the based on your environment and what you were taught, right? Because nobody knew that. Your grandma didn't know about your nervous system. Your granddaddy didn't. Your mama didn't. Like nobody knew that you was this machine that basically, and I'm saying machine softly, but nobody knew that you was this mechanism, right? That their words had so much power over you that they were actually programming how you would see yourself and how you would see your world. Okay. And so they said things, did things, and things happened in that environment. So now as this grown person, you want connection, you want love, you want affection, right? You want the friend that you can trust. You want to not control everything. But it's hard for you to do that, right? Because one, you haven't updated your boundaries, you haven't updated your values, and a part of you haven't updated your nervous system. And a part of updating your nervous system is updating your values, updating your boundaries, being consistent, building new habits, right? Creating these new processes, and a lot of us are living in those old processes. So, good morning, Sal. Sal said, "Good morning, everyone. Happy Transformational Tuesday. What boundary, right, would give your nervous system the most peace right now?" That's a good question, right? The boundary that would give your nervous system the most peace is not being too available, right? So she said, I think she said that the boundary system that would give her nervous system the most peace would be not being too available. And some of us, it does unnerve us, right? Because we do have this tendency to want to say yes to everybody, right? And not really establish these boundaries and expectations. And I think that's the other thing. So a boundary is your thing, and expectation is what we set for people. And guess the first thing we say: stop expecting people to meet your. And it's like, it's okay to have an expectation, because when you have a standard, life is about expectation. Okay. So when you start dropping your expectation of what life is going to deliver to you, you actually start settling for anything. But I know that that's this word that we say, like, stop expecting people to, stop expecting this. It's not so much about expecting people to do anything more than it's expecting an experience. All right. So I'm expecting to be respected. Right. And so I'm going to notice when disrespect is happening, I'm not going to go into fight, freeze, or fawn. I'm going to become aware of that disrespect. I'm going to regulate my emotions, because this disrespect and really throw me off. So I'm going to regulate. I'm going to go back in and I'm going to have a conversation. I'm going to communicate that, right? Because my expectation is here. How do we know that expectations are important? Because when you walk into a library, they set an expectation. They have an environment. They saying, hey, this is what we expect in our environment. You know, whisper, do this. When you walk into a store, there's an expectation that you're gonna have shoes, socks, right, and a shirt on, right? It say no shoes, no socks, no service. All right, right. So they're setting an expectation. At that point, when you walk in with no shoes on, then they could say, you can't come in, right? Anybody that coming in here, we're expecting them to have on shoes, right? So you can do that as an individual. You can have expectations, right? But that will require you to understand your boundary. So when somebody does something, right, to cringe up on it, you're going to then say, like the store attendant would say, hey, you can't come in without any shoes, right? Right. Does that make sense? If that makes sense, put a heart in the chat. Listen, good morning. We are, I think, 25 minutes in, a little bit deep into the conversation. It is Transformational Tuesday. So let's take your deep breath. One of the ways that we actually rewire our nervous system, one of the best ways to do this is to just get present in the body, right? Just to let the body know that you safe, right? You're safe in this body. I say, like, if you got whooped or you experience any type of trauma, if you think about a splat, right, like a splatter, right, a lot of times that trauma is like that. It's like a splatter. So a lot of times we're outside of our bodies in some way, shape, or form. We don't feel ourselves breathing. We don't feel our heart, right? We don't feel our sensory system is very, very, very faint, right? Our breath is very, very, very faint. And so getting present in the body and doing this body scan every day is really bringing you into the body and letting the body know, listen, it's safe, and it's actually switching your nervous system to safe. Okay, so let's feel. So I said this week we were going to do kindness to ourselves, right? So we're going to drop that water, or we're going to imagine that sunlight over our head, right? Just the sun kind of gazing on us, right? A beautiful sun, not too hot, right? And what do suns do? Right? They nurture, right? So we know that plants need sunlight, right? Flowers need sunlight. So that is what this kindness is coming down, or this sun is doing, right? It's providing you with nurture. I think it's so funny, not funny, but interesting, because when we get traumatized, trauma is like a bolt of lightning. It just kick right in. And I say healing is like sunlight, right? So you need it every day. Like it's the sunlight is like nurturing you, right? So healing takes time. Like you plant the seed, right? And then you water, and then you need the sun to come in to give it what it needs to grow. And so healing can feel like it takes so much time, because it's not like a bolt of lightning that's coming in and imprinting you. It's more like the sun shining consistently every day. When it's going to come up, when it's going to come down, right? And so it's that consistency that happens in healing. All right, so we're going to have this sunlight. It's at the top of our heads, right? It's shining down or filling us up, right? And so we feel it. But today we're going to feel it from our feet, right? So it's kind of like it's pouring down in our body, right? This kindness. If you need compassion today, or if you need some forgiveness, right? But today's focus for me is just being kind to ourselves. Because here's the thing, I think we want people to be kind to us, but kindness starts with us. So let's be kind to ourselves. So that sunlight is dropping down our bodies and it's starting to fill us up from our feet, right? And so we can feel ourselves. That sun is just like filling our feet, right? Filling our legs up, and we're just getting present, and we're feeling this kindness, the sun nurturing our bodies, being kind to us. And in a way, this is us doing this for ourselves, taking the time out, up our thighs, right? If you're sitting down, feeling your butt, right? So you should feel like your legs are a little heavier now because they're full of kindness, all right? Up the back, right? Up your spine, like all of your organs, right? Just filling up all of the cells in your body, just kind of filling, right? And the sun is just kind of pouring it's pouring down into you, right? Your heart, you feel that, right? Your heart warming, right? It's kind of like your body is warming up because you're starting to feel this sun just feel your body, right? Your chest, right? Down your arms. You can feel that liquid gold sun just pour down your arms, your hands, activating your hands, getting them from a very dorsal, like, fight flight to very heavy and manual so you can do the things that you need to do today, right? And as those arms fill up, right, we go back and we see the neck, right? The neck starts to feel, right? And really opening up that chakra, warming up that chakra, your throat chakra, which is your energy field, so that you can speak your truth, all right? Up your face, your mouth, your teeth, right? Your lips, right? Softening your ears, right? Up your head, and then activating like right behind your eyes, just kind of clearing some space, right? Just filling yourself up with kindness on this morning. It's Transformational Tuesday, and it's okay, you guys, to be something different. If nobody told you that, it's just so okay to be something different, right? You could have been angry, you could have been upset, you could have been quote unquote, unhealed, unforgiven. But today, you can choose to fill yourself up with kindness. And if something is making you feel like you don't deserve that, then that's just your nervous system, right? It's just kind of interfering and saying, hey, you don't know how to be kind to yourself. You never understand. If you hear that noise, it's okay, because guess what the sun is doing? It's coming to comfort that, so you can build a new relationship with that inner critic, right? And then it fills up over the top of your head, right? And as it shoots out the top of your head, it just kind of rains around you, right? So this sun just kind of fills up around you. Okay. All right. And then we just hold our heart today and just to let ourselves know, I love you. Thank you. Thank you for being kind, right? To me in this moment, kind and gentle. And when we can introduce those type of tactics into our life, or those type of routines and rituals into our life, we really start to change the nervous system, and we really start to show this guardian, or this child, right? In a sense, this unsafe child in us, that listen, if I can sit here for a minute and fill myself up, if I can sit here and be present with me, then it's allowing that nervous system to trust us, right? And partner with us in this thing called life, so we can experience something different. All right. So good morning, good morning, good morning. Again, you are on Project Life. Project Life is, you know, when we turn theory into practice. A part of Project Life is this life lesson, right? And this life lesson is something I do every day, for individuals. If you're new here, my name is Dr. Sheila Little. I've been a clinical therapist now for 20 years, right? I no longer work as a clinical therapist. I work as an emotional strategist and life and business coach. My doctoral degree is in business psychology, and what I was able to do is look at business systems, look at how businesses work, and really integrate that, right, into my therapy work, and really start creating systems that really, and frameworks to really help people align, advance, and accelerate their life. So as an emotional strategist, I help people rewire, or come back in relationship with their selves through emotional intelligence and nervous system work. Ultimately creating frameworks for them. And one of those frameworks is a stop it now framework. That is a framework that I use to help people stop their past, right? Get present enough in the now so that they can have a different future. So good morning, good morning. Drop a word in the chat. Let me know how you're doing on this morning. How are you doing? I'm doing pretty good. My grandma coming today. I kind of feel like so people don't know me. My grandma is like my mama. So my mom. So one of these relationships for me is that my mom, she was 15, she had her first child. She was 17, she had her second child. She was 19 when she had her third child. All right. But she was a beautiful lady, right? And she was a beautiful lady. So she just had like men coming after her. And, because sometimes men mature a little slower, right? She just didn't really want children, right? And so, we kind of felt abandoned. But I always say, like, I didn't really feel like a motherless child because I had my grandmother, right? And then as I grew up, I was very conscious and intentional about bringing women into my life that served in that role, all right? And what that allowed me to do was to form a different relationship with my mom. So today, like, I love my mom. I've learned how to interact with my mom in a way. And yeah, like, and I understand that my mom was a woman before she was a mother, and she had her own traumas that she had to deal with. And it was my responsibility as an adult woman to get the things that I needed, right? So my grandma's coming in town. So I'm grateful. And my auntie. So it's like my mama and my second mama. So those are the two individuals that raised me, right? My auntie was just like, one of the individuals that, well, my mom definitely was like, hey, listen, I don't want these kids. Like, yeah, I'm gonna go on and take them out. My auntie was like, listen, you don't gotta take your kids out. They can come stay with me. So me and my brothers are forever grateful for my grandma and my mom, because I mean my grandma and my auntie, I call her my mom, because they came in, they really saved us, right? They really saved us. Now, what that did though is me knowing that my grandma got kids and my aunt had kids. So what it set me up for was very performative, because we were sleeping on couches, right? We knew that they loved us, but we also knew that we was an addition to this family, right? That there was not, as a young person, there was not this authentic connection, or like I know I'm not really your daughter. And so what that made me do is start to become a performer. So who do I need to be so that I don't get kicked out, right? So who do I need to become to prove that, or to show them that I'm a good girl, and I'm worth keeping, right? And so my nervous system built up a very performative, um, attention seeking, like, hey, do you see me? Am I good enough? And really this act of, am I good enough for you to keep me, right? And so as I had to, grow up and mature, it was learning that I am good enough even without doing anything, right? Right. And so a big part of the systems that I create and the work that I do is really to help other people understand what and that was my limits condition, right? My limits condition was just not feeling good enough. And so I kept working and working and working. I think Sal talked about this boundary in there about, being too available or having too much access, right? So all of these things we develop in this lemon condition, right? And helping you to really stop that lemon condition so you can create lemonade with your life. So good morning, good morning. I love this conversation. So who is this session for today? It's for you if your body tenses up before certain phone calls. This is for you if you feel exhausted after normal conversations with certain people. This session for you if you've grown but still perform old versions of yourself around family, right? A lot of times people, you know, a lot of times people don't even go back home. But when they go back home, like a lot of the wives don't like their husbands when they get back home, right? A lot of husbands don't like their wives, because it's like, I already know who you're gonna be when you get around your family. I already know what you're gonna do when you go home and be around your homeboy. So I don't want you to go back to that environment, right? But what they don't realize is that that's the nervous system, right? And what that man needs to do to heal that is to really build a different relationship with his nervous system, because he's probably scared of being judged by his peers, right? And so how do we support our mates in that? Which is why I'm doing a branding project to really help men to reestablish that, because I work with a lot of women who, like, listen, when my husband get around his friends, he just get childish, and and it's like, yeah, that would make sense, right? Because he's dropping back into this old pattern, right? And I work with a lot of husbands and even friends, right? Friends, you may have a friend and then you see them around a certain group and you're like, who is that, right? So if you're grown but you're still perform out old versions of yourself around family, and you're ready to really stop abandoning yourself to really keep um you're ready to stop self-abandoning to keep other people's comfort. Listen, if your nervous system is still protecting you from relationships that no longer serve you, your nervous system is still protecting you from relationships that no longer serve you. This lesson is your recalibration. All right. So today's quote today: your nervous system is protecting what it knows, even if what it knows no longer serves you. I need you to know that. It is actually protecting what it understands and what it knows, even if the thing that it knows is no longer serving you. It is that pattern, right? And I always say, listen, you're not wounded, you're not, you're not broken. What do I say? You're patterned. You're patterned, because by design, that's how we are as human beings, right? So you're not broken, you're not wounded, you're not any of those judgments and those negative connotations, right? You're a divine individual, you're a divine being having a human experience. However, you so happen to be patterned by an environment, by the people in the environment, and by behaviors. And those patterns now are no longer serving you, all right? But they're patterned into the nervous system. And as this grown age of an adult, it is your responsibility to get the help that you need to what? To repattern yourself, right? And what are you repatterning yourself for? For the person that you are now and the person that you're becoming. Because remember, we want to have a relationship with our future self. We don't want to keep having a relationship with who we were in the past. We want to unbraid ourselves from that person in the past, and we want to build a healthy relationship, right, with this person in the future. All right. So let's talk about this. Your nervous system is like an overprotective parent. All right. It learned through experience who was safe and who wasn't, right? And now it's still operating from those old files. I remember every female friend that I would bring to my mama house, right? When I lived with my mom at a young age, she ain't your friend. She ain't your friend. She ain't your friend. That is not your friend. I just need you to know that that is not your friend. I mean, I heard that so much from my mama, right? But now I'm older. And do you know, my mom don't have no friends? Like, I'm like, where are your friends at? Like, who? I don't even know my mom to have a friend, right? But that was her pattern. And guess what she tried to do? She tried to pattern me like that, right? Like, so every woman that came in, right? Every friend that I have, she just would, that ain't your friend. She just this, that ain't your friend, right? And it slowly dripped down in me where it's like, that language where I started to feel like, is this person my friend? And then I had to break that. But then now that I'm older and I see my mom, it's like, you don't got no friends, right? Now, I'm sure life dealt her a hand where she probably behaved in a way or saw women behave in a way where she felt like she couldn't trust women. But listen, you can't judge everybody by a handful of you can't judge everybody by a handful of experiences. So you knew 3, 4, 5 people. And because those 3, 4, 5 people affected you, now you generalize a whole population of women of gender. You've been in 3, 4, 5 relationships, and even if you've been in 10, right? So you can't generalize that all men are no good because you've been in 10 relationships or 2 relationships, right? But it feels that way because remember, when trauma happened, it feels like a lightning bolt. And so your nervous system says, all men are this way, stay away from them, right? And it's just not true. And it's just not true. All right. So again, your nervous system is like an overprotective parent. I learned through experiences. Um, who was safe and who wasn't. It learned through experiences who was safe and who wasn't. And now it's still operating from those old files. Okay. So that person who dismissed your dreams, guess what? Your body still shrinks around them and around energy or people like them. That one who needed you to be less, your voice is still soft in their presence, right? You still choke. You still find yourself struggling for your words when they come around, right? That family member who couldn't hold your growth, your nervous system is still performing for them, right? At the events, you like, yeah, such is gonna be there, and it may be doing it subconsciously. So you go get the best outfits, or you doing something right to outprove them. That's a way that we know that these individuals still have some control over us. But here's the truth: you can update your software, right? Boundaries aren't punishments, you guys. They're your nervous system update, teaching your body this is who earns closeness. This is who gets limited access, and this is who doesn't get in at all, right? Like I can speak, how you doing, but I don't have to let you in my house, right? Because I already know what that's going to be like. And my house is me, and you get the permission to choose that, all right? So yesterday we talked about not being obligated to live by the stories that were handed to you. Today, we're going to go deeper. Your nervous system is still protecting, but because your nervous system is still protecting that old story. I had a client, right, who once told me every time my sister calls, my chest just get tight, right? Uh, Her sister wasn't abusive, you guys, but she was energetically expensive. She was energetically expensive, always in a crisis, always needing a rescue, always needing reciprocating support, right? Like she just always needed something. So every time the phone rung, It was like an energetic expense. Like, oh, here she come calling again. Now, I get that, right? How many of you guys get that? If you get that, put a heart in the chat for me. Have you, if you have those relationships or those people that call you and you're just like, oh my God, here they go, right? Listen, we didn't cut the sister off in our work, right? We renegotiated access. All right. So we started to put up boundaries. Text first, calls were scheduled, right? Visits are have boundaries. So when you can come and when you can't come. And then guess what? As a consequence, her nervous system learned I can love her and protect my peace. I'm gonna tell you who's really great at this, my brother. And seeing him establish boundaries, at first it didn't feel good, because I was the sister, like, call him that day, like, hey, bro, can you come and take me, or can you come help me, put this picture up? And he probably laughing if he pop on today. Can you come help me put this picture up? And he'd be like, sis, I need 24 hours. I need 24 hours for you to, give me a quick request like that, right? And I'm like, bro, it's just a picture, right? Like, I just need it, because I'm in a because I done woke up today and I didn't want to change my whole room around, right? So now I'm gonna call him like, oh, come help me hang this picture up. Like, sis, I need 24 hours for that, right? And he did it enough. Well, guess what? Now it's like, well, if you're gonna hang that picture up, set that to the side because he's gonna need 24 hours, right? So he established this boundary. He did it so well with my mom. And so seeing him model that, it was like, oh, that is just so beautiful to see from this masculine energy. It wasn't like, oh, you always asking me for stuff. You always it was, oh, I need 24 hours for that. And so we put that in place for my mom too, because my mom was the type that'd be like, come take me here, come take me there. And it's like, no, I need 24 hours, right? Now, mind you, how emotional that was for him to establish that boundary, right? But people can become energetically expensive, all right? And so we need to know what boundaries do we got to put in place, but we don't have to cut people off. We just have to learn how to establish these boundaries. So again, she didn't have to cut her sister off. What she needed to do was renegotiate the access, right? So that now there's these expectations from her sister, there's these boundaries, right? And then we teach people how to treat us. Now, it's so funny to me because we hear people say this, you teach people how to treat you. Well, how you going to teach anybody how to treat you when you keep cutting people off? That ain't teaching them how to treat you. That's actually severing relationships, nor is that teaching you how to build the emotional capacity and fortitude to develop the language to actually teach people how to treat you, right? But we will, get, we will cut people off thinking that's teaching people how to treat us, and that's not teaching people how to treat you. What that's doing is shutting doors and windows and walls that eventually you're going to have to climb over, you're going to have to unlock and walk out of, right? And you're going to have to pull up, right, so that you can eventually get to the other side and get those connections that you want. All right. So another situation, I had a person in my life who always needed me to be the strong one, right? Every interaction was them falling apart and me holding them together, right? But my nervous system got so used to bracing for their chaos, you guys, that I will feel exhausted before they even called. It's like, okay, they called. Breathe. Right. Listen, it was just one day I said, listen, I love you. I do. I really do. But I just need space not to be your stability today. Yeah, I just need space to not do that. When I said that, I mean, it was so hard, right? It was so emotional. And I can even feel them kind of mm, but here's why intention, and this is why when I talk about it's in how you do things, and not that everybody's going to respond that way, but when people know you and they know you're not trying to be cruel, and they know that you don't have this intention, they tend to take the cut a little bit better, right? But if I was like, girl, I am just so tired of you. You always got a problem. She would have heard that very different than what me telling her what I needed. Listen, I just need space to not be your stability. Listen, everything shifted. um, they didn't like it though, but my body, it finally was like, It's like as soon as it was like, okay, hung up that phone, I felt this relief. Listen, that wasn't cruelty. That was me teaching my nervous system that it's safe to rest. Like I don't have to run towards every call. So here's your mirror moment. I want you to pause and put down the guilt, put down the obligation, and put down the stories that says that you have to keep everyone close. Okay. I want you to pause and feel and ask yourself, what presence make your nervous system brace? All right. Not because you're in trouble, but because that dramatic that not because not because you're terrible, but because the dynamic that's happening requires you to abandon yourself, all right? To shrink, to perform, and to overfunction. Your body knows this, all right? Even when your mind makes excuses. So what presence makes your nervous system brace? Another thing I want you to ask yourself is, what relationships feel like emotional labor instead of emotional nourishment? All right. Ask yourself, do you feel energized or depleted after time? Okay, after time with these individuals, are you being yourself or are you performing a role? Right? These are things that you just want to be honest about. And does your body feel safe or on guard? Right? Like, do you feel tight around people? Listen, your nervous system, it ain't lying to you. All right, it's keeping the score because that is what the body does. All right. And then last but not least, who deserves more access to this healed version of you? All right. Is there people around you that you need to align with, reach out to, may serve as a bridge or a vessel that you're not using as a resource? So who deserves more access to you? This isn't about who you release, but it's really about who you're inviting closer in. Okay. We celebrate your boundaries, or who's celebrating your boundaries instead of challenging them, who makes your nervous system feel safe, right? Who sees your growth and says, keep going. Mind you, those people are sometimes the people that you don't want to call first because you already know that they're going to give you, like a lot of people for me. It's like, yeah, I didn't even call you with that one because I know you're going to be like, let's think about it. Like, because sometimes we do want to be, because I say I have my shenanigans, right? Like, sometimes I want to go off, right? But those are the people that we probably need to pin and say, but those are the people that I need to, reach out to more and get in contact with. And it may be uncomfortable at first, but that they're who you need right now. All right. So here's five truths I need you to know about your nervous system. Your nervous system doesn't know time. It's still protecting you from old threats. So what happened then still feels like now in your body until you start to update your boundaries, right? Because boundaries will help you to update that and knowing what you value, right? Number two, some relationships dysregulate you through no fault of anyone. It's just a misalignment. And I think that, and if anything, I want you to know, I created the limits condition because that is what limits is. It's a misalignment, right? And what is a misalignment? A misalignment is, it just don't fit. It's like those puzzle pieces. Like no matter how much you try to smash them together, it's a little piece coming off, right? And it's just like no smooth. So when there's misalignment, if you think about jagged edges, things can't catch momentum, right? Behaviors don't, because it got to reset and bump over these rocky roads. But the more aligned you are, then the more momentum you can create energetically, emotionally, and otherwise, because it's a smoother surface, if that makes sense. All right. So some relationships dysregulate through no fault of anyone. It's just like a misalignment. So it's not about good or bad people. And again, I wanted us to get out that language. It's really about your nervous system, about what your nervous system needs and can hold. All right. Listen, you can love somebody and need distance, okay, for your nervous system to heal. And I think that, people is like, I wish he was here, right? I wish he was here so he can hear this. I wish she was here so she can hear this. Like, we want to heal in this community. And it's like, listen, you can love people. They don't have to come with you, right? You can love them and need this distance for your nervous system to heal. Love doesn't require all access past you. All right. Sometimes love looks like loving people from afar, especially when you're in that critical stage of transitioning. All right. Your body will tell you who's safe before your mind will. I know that this is so important to know. That tension, that exhaustion, that's your nervous system saying this is costing too much, right? Um, and it's how you feel like afterwards. Now, mind you, it's a level of comfortability there, right? Familiarity, but there's a cost to it. And I want you to notice what that cost is. Like, yeah, we speak the same language. I know what you're talking about, like, but when I go home, I probably can't go right to sleep, right? Right. So there's a cost that's happening, right? That your body is saying, hey, yeah, you had a good time, but you are a little more exhausted than you was yesterday or when you was with that other group that kind of gave you energy. All right. So your body will tell you what's safe or not. Listen, boundaries are reparenting your nervous system, really teaching it what's safe, what safety feels like. What does safety feel like now? Okay. So you're not pushing anyone, you're teaching your body. You're not pushing away anyone. You're just teaching your body, we don't have to brace anymore. All right. Listen, your nervous system is still protecting you from chapters that already ended. Every relationship either regulated you or dysregulated your healing. All right. Why this matters is because you can't heal in the same relational dynamic that dysregulated you. Meaning, if you're in that same mindset, then it's hard to heal that. All right. Your growth really requires relationships that feel safe to your body, not just familiar. And I just, and again, not just familiar. Some of us are just familiar with a certain type of energy, with a certain type of dynamic, and we think that's safe, but that's not safe for your nervous system, and that's not safe for your healing process. And it's something about you know who knows that, and that's why we talked about owning your truth last week before even coming into rewriting your script today, because when we can be honest about that, then we can create that distance that we need so that we can heal, right? And then once we heal, then we can go and interact pretty much with anybody, because we'll know how to set those boundaries and communicate and really stand up for ourselves and practice that. Here's the real value. When you honor what your nervous system is telling you, you actually create space for genuine connection, you guys. Your energy returns, you create flow, and your peace becomes sustainable. All right. I had one client who said, once I stepped out of forcing myself to maintain relationships that exhausted her, guess what? She had the energy that she hadn't felt in years. I tell y'all about the individual, like I date and I openly date people. And I mean, I can remember dating this guy, and it was so much connection, right? That I just felt safe. Now, it wasn't the type of experience like verbally, like when I saw him aesthetically and in his language, right? All of that was kind of like, because didn't really have a full language, wasn't always using the right words, but it was something about his presence that made my nervous system feel like safe, right? And having that experience is like, yes, that is what I want. I want more of that. Okay, listen, polyvagal theory, we talked about this before, shows you that our nervous system co-regulates with others. Okay, being around dysregulated individuals or being in dysregulated relationships keep you in fight, freeze, or fawn. All right, while safe relationships actually activate our social, emotional, or social engagement part of our nervous system and healing. What does that mean? If you're around drama, even if you're not traumatic, your nervous system feels it. It doesn't have like this, um, it doesn't have this thing where it is saying, oh, that's their drama, right? It's reading the room. And it's like antennas that's going out, right? So when we're around these things, it's actually affecting how we feel. That's why it's important. So many people are moving and cohabitating and things like that. I mean, I go cohabitate, but it's important to understand what that environment is like in cohabitation and how that's affecting how you live, how you grow, right? And then the type of relationships you have. I'm not saying don't have those relationships, but I'm saying, hey, be intentional about being in a community of people that's pouring from you, especially if you're in a situation that just say that is not in alignment. All right. All right. So today we're talking about interactions, and here's just 10 truths I need you to know about boundaries as nervous system protection. Your nervous system learned who was safe through experience. Now it needs to know, now it needs new data. All right. It needs new data. It's not stubborn, it's protective, and it needs a gentle update. All right. So we don't have to judge it. We don't have to, judge the people before. Hey, we just need some compassionate understanding about why we were how we were. And a lot of us, if we were honest, we know why we have five fees are fine because we grew up in environments where we needed that. I know for us, I grew up in an environment was, shooting all the time. I grew up on 4th Street. Right. So it was always a fighting or a fiend walking by or, something happening that kept me in survival mode, right? So I don't have to judge that, and I don't have to judge those experiences. What I know now is that doesn't work for me. I want to expand my life, right? I want community, and so I need to update. And those are the things that I work with individuals on. Number two, proximity is a privilege, not an obligation. When you become older, again, I talked about proximity being a privilege. When you was younger, you had it, it built your friendships. But when you get older, you're not obligated to be in close contact with people in that way, right? You can create a cadence. That cadence could be once a week. That cadence could be every day. That cadence could be, and when I say cadence, that's a rhythm, that's a beat, right? That cadence could be once a year, right? But you get to create that cadence, all right? Just because they've always been close to you, it doesn't mean that they should be that close to you now. All right. Some relationships are seasonal. I think, we know this. People come in your life for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. So some relationships are seasonal. So learn how to honor the season without guilt. All right. All right. Hey, that was a season. I can let you go. And I think a lot of times we're taking seasonal relationships that was really came into our life to teach us something, and we're making them lifetime relationships, right? Because we don't want to quote unquote lose again, right? We don't want to start over, right? But it was always a seasonal relationship, all right? It was always a seasonal relationship. Your nervous system needed needed them then, and it just doesn't need them now. I think about that when I think about, I think that me and my kid's father has grown through seasons, but I think about, needing, when I was at that age when I met my kid's father, it definitely was I needed to experience this man who had went off to college and, got this scholarship. Like I had never at that point, everybody I knew came from the hood, like they drug dealers. I mean, we were trying, but I had never really met a guy who came from a two-parent home, had college degree. I just felt like I had hit the jackpot. So I feel like it was like this season that I needed to experience that to even know that existed, right? And to be close to it, tangible with it, right? And then that season once it dissolved, right? And so we created different season in our life because we have kids, right? Co-regulation works both ways. You can absorb, so you can absorb their dysregulation too. Again, what is co-regulating? I'm gonna talk more about co-regulation because it's important. But it's like when a person is big, you bring them down, right? You can bring a person down, like you like breathe and then you breathe, or your voice stays low, right? And so you're kind of regulating the room, and and that's called co-regulation because you're helping this person to regulate themselves. We see it a lot when people have anxiety and stuff like that, and then you start to breathe at a pace, and then that person starts to match your pace. All right. Listen, it's if they're always in chaos, your nervous system will mirror that. So again, it just doesn't happen with that slowing down. Like you can actually co-regulate to another person's drama or dramatic level. And I told you about that before, where you didn't step out of character because you didn't co-regulate it to that individual's default or that individual's safety need. Okay. Your body knows before your mind does. That guilt feeling again, that tightness in your chest, that's wisdom. All right, that's wisdom. Distance doesn't mean disconnecting, you guys. It means conscious. It means conscious connection. So I want you to think about that. Distance doesn't mean disconnect. It means that when I connect, I am connecting with intention. Okay. So it's a conscious connection. You can love them, you can pray for them, you can wish them well from a regulated distance. All right. So instead of thinking, and I work with clients on this because they like, well, I just don't want to leave them behind. I just don't, and I get that. But let's stop looking at it like you're disconnecting from these individuals, and let's start looking at it like, how do I consciously connect with them? how do I intentionally connect with them, right? Because that's a totally different energy and it feels different to the body and it feels different as you're healing. All right. Um, Good morning, Dale. Good morning. Number 7, people who challenge your boundaries benefit your nervous system staying small, right? So people who come in and challenge your boundaries, they actually benefit from your nervous system staying small, right? Because their resistance is evidence that your boundary is necessary. But when you don't hold your boundary, right, it's like you're not holding your boundary. So the person is benefiting by stepping over it because they're getting what they want at your cost, at the cost of your nervous system staying small. All right. The healing or your healing attracts healed people. So a big part of going on a healing journey is not just for yourself. It's because you start to attract healed people, healed conversations, different parts of individuals, and you start to attract the healed part of people. Because again, people are not broken, they're patterned. And some people have very healthy patterns, but you don't get to experience that healthy pattern because you are not patterned that way, right? Right. And so you get to actually meet that healed part of that person. And we see this, right? A man breaks up with you, he gets with somebody else, she now gets the patterned or the healthy patterned him, right? When she gets the healthy patterned him, it's like, oh wow, oh, you just a different man for her. And and sometimes he can't explain it. Or when a woman gets with a different guy, right, you kind of can see something in her change, because and it's the same person, but the person has access to a different part of them. So your healing actually attracts healed people and but um but only make makes it if you make space for that. And again, it doesn't just attract healed new people, it actually attracts the healed part of people. Okay, so you can't receive these new connections from the current relationships you have or new relationships while maintaining, the draining relationships, or maintaining that pattern. All right. Boundaries are how you teach people to love the real you. Again, like I told you, my brother, he has these boundaries, and I love that he has these boundaries, right? When he established those boundaries, like it's like I really get to see that my brother is a very mature, like process systems guy, right? I don't see him as being snarty or anything like that. So actually, people get to know us through our boundaries and the things that we value. All right. So here's our biblical wisdom for today. Proverbs 43:6. This is your principal verse. Above all else, guard your heart, right? Guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Listen, this isn't just about emotional protection. This is God saying your nervous system is sacred. All right. Your nervous system is sacred. What you let close to it matters. All right. Because we're all one. Okay. All right. And we all bleed in together. All right. So your heart in Hebrew stands for lep. All right. Which means your whole inner being. All right. So your thoughts, your emotions, in your heart, emotions, will, and your nervous system. All right. That's the whole inner part of you. So God's not asking you to build walls. He's actually asking you to be intentional with who you give access to yourself. And again, right? And I would venture to say who you give access to and when you give access to, because we do have a responsibility to be in service or to give service, right? To literally go and give back. But we can't help people before we help ourselves. And I think that is even why, I train people to become life coaches, right? So one of the programs that I do is is the is life coaching, like certified life coaches. And in certifying these life coaches, like they have to go, a part of that training is what? Is teaching them how to heal. So when they go back, they can serve from a different lens. All right. Neuroscience actually confirms this. It said the polyvagal theory confirms that our hearts and our nervous system are in constant communication with each other. So your heart rate variability, that measures your nervous system flexibility. All right. That measures your nervous system flexibility. And it says that, and it is directly impacted by the quality of, and that part of you is directly impacted by the quality of your relationship. So safe connections increase your heart rate variability, and resilience. And guess what? Dysregulation, guess what it does? It decreases both. It decreases your heart rate variability, and it basically drops you down to like emotional disconnect or fight, freeze, and fawn. All right. Um, our promise verse for today, Psalms 23, 2 and 3. I love Psalms, the 23rd Psalms. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me lay down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leadeth me in a path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for God, thou art with me. Thou rod and thou staff, they will comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anoint my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. I know that word for word, heart for heart, right? But it's something that I was taught at a very young age, like 5 or 6, and my nervous system never forgot. That's why I said it to you, right? Because this is how the nervous system works. We get taught things, right? My grandfather taught me that, repeated it to me over and over and over again. And I hadn't picked up a Bible in a long time, but because I rehearsed that so much, like I know it's like a song. Now, I used to just say it before. I didn't even have an understanding of what it was saying until I got older and I broke down each scripture and then I taught it to my kids and I taught it to them conceptually. All right. So today's verse is promise verse is Psalms 23, 2 and 3. He lays me down. He makes me lay down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He refreshes my soul or restores my soul. Listen, God isn't offering spiritual rest. He's modeling nervous system regulations. Green pastures is like safety. Quiet waters, that is calm presence. Refreshed soul, guess what? That's regulated nervous system. This is God really showing you what relationships should feel like: peaceful, nurturing, and restorative. All right. And that doesn't mean that we're not going to conflict, but there's going to be some understanding and intention, right? Some respect on how we talk to each other, because when we learn how to communicate, even in conflict, right, there's some nourishing, there's some restoration, and there's some peace. All right. Neuroscience supports this when it says that that when we're in safe, nurturing environments, literally and rationally, right, our nervous system shifts into a ventral vagal state. All right. And ventral vagal state is that social engagement system. So this is where healing, creativity, and connection really starts to happen. So this scripture is actually describing optimal nervous system conditions. He leadeth me. He makes me lay down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters and restores my soul. That is actually saying, hey, I'm getting you out of fight, freeze, or fawn, and I'm putting you into social engagement. Putting you into social engagement for your nervous system so that what you can start to experience heaven on earth. So you can start to experience blessings. So you can start, quote unquote, manifesting the life that you want. All right. So I got a question to ask you: what relationships helped your nervous system, like the green pastures, and which ones keep you in survival? All right. So let's put this into practice on today. I want you to notice, number one, notice your body's responses to 3 key relationships this week. All right. I want you to create a paradox, a proximity map. All right. Make an inner circle, an outer circle, and then an outer circle, and then no circle. All right. There's no circle outside. All right. And I like this bullseye thing because I always say that, like, sometimes, like, we need to be able to identify who is our inner circle, who is the middle circle, right? Who is the outer circle, and then no, and not inner circle at all. All right. Practice boundaries that are honest to your nervous system's need. All right. Not just sound good. And then your journal prompt for today: my nervous system needs me to what? All right. And then your affirmation for today: my body deserves relationships that feel like safety, not survival. And then your intention for today: I choose connection that regulates, not dysregulate. My healing for the next 24 hours. This is your bonus challenge. I want you to only respond to people who make your nervous system. See if you can only respond to people who make your nervous system feel safe. All right. Listen, in closing, you're not obligated to keep old characters or old people in your healed story. All right. You are the author now. Okay. And this time you get to choose who stays, who shifts, and who doesn't come with you at all. All right. Tomorrow we're talking about rehearsed dysfunction isn't destiny. It's all about focus, you guys. We're naming the patterns and we're breaking them one line at a time. All right. Here's your emotional takeaway for today. You can't build peace with people who only recognize your pain. All right. So I want you to learn how to rewrite your cast, learn how to rewrite your story because your nervous system has been protecting you the only way it knows how. So thank it, honor it, then gently let it know I'm safe now. Okay. We are safe now. Okay. And we get to choose who comes close. All right. This time, it's not about cutting people off. It's about teaching your body what it's about teaching your body what safety really feels like. Listen, I want you to know, oh well, if this session was really resonated with you, put drop a fire in the chat. All right. Drop a fire in the chat and let's celebrate our growth together. If you have not already, make sure you go subscribe to that YouTube channel. Make sure you come over and engage with Sal. Sal is keeping the group very much engaged. If you don't know who Sal is my mascot, right? Wise old Sal. Okay. Sal has some bite-sized recipes. Sal has some engagement and things like that. So if you're not a part of the Elevating Life group, make sure you get over there. Introduce yourself to Sal. All right. And remember, if you could shape it in your mind, you can have it in your life. Listen, I love you. I love you. I love you. It's Transformational Tuesday. Let's learn how to transform our nervous system, transform our relationships, really from the inside out. So I love you. I'll see you tomorrow for that life lesson. Till later.